everybody, welcome back. In my last episode, I was talking about the damage that was done to my NC and the little fender bender that happened to me and what I was going to do to fix it. And this is part 2, and we're going to go through all of the repairs that I did to the car. But before I go into that, I want to go back to the question that I asked in the last video. Am I cursed? I don't know, but check this out. So the day after Christmas, my wife and I went back to the place that I originally got hit in my Miata. But this time I was driving my Nissan Altima rental car. Yeah, I know, it was a total piece of crap. I'm glad I'm not driving anymore, but I digress. So anyway, my wife and I are driving home, and we come across a power crew that's working on a downed power line that got blown down in a storm the day before. And they've got the road closed. We had to go around it, took a detour, and we come back and connect up with that road. Now the oncoming traffic here is closed. You can see the cones over here on the left side. But this guy in this SUV decides he wants to go that way anyway. So what does he do? He comes into my lane head on at us, and I have to swerve over to the side of the road to keep from getting hit by him. The other thing you notice here also is that the stoplight is out because the power line's down, and when that happens, you're supposed to do like it's a four-way stop. But does anybody do that? No. Look at all these people just zooming by, not even stopping. And you can see when I turn, there's a whole bunch of people on the left there that were waiting for me to go, while all these other jackasses just keep going through the intersection. It's like, but believe it or not, that wasn't it. We're still driving home, maybe an hour later, almost home. And we're just driving down the street, minding our own business. And we come across this light, which is a crosswalk. It's not an intersection that has lights on both sides. There's a stop sign on either side of the road. And this lady just blows through the stop sign into the intersection. I have to slam on the brakes. I almost get hit again. So, am I cursed? I don't know. But anyway, let's get into what I did to the Miata to get it back on the road. So basically my goal right now is to put this together to the point that I can drive the car. It's not going to fall off. It's safe. Everything's cool. And to do this, I have the following supplies. Scrap pieces of plastic that broke off the bumper, a good number of bolts, nuts, and washers, an even bigger number of pop rivets, a handful of wood screws, and a package of JB Weld plastic bonder. Just doing a little bit of a test fit here, and yeah, it looks like it's going to fit pretty good. I'm going to have to bolt the grill in. You'll have to forgive me because I had some camera problems, and I lost a bunch of footage, and I couldn't do it over. But you can see here I drilled holes through some of the tabs in the grill. And then I ran wood screws through the front into those tabs so that it would hold the grill tight against the front of the bumper. And then I took a clamp and clamped down the section around the headlight where the two pieces had separated. And I drilled a bunch of holes in it. I was originally going to use rivets, but the rivets didn't work. You can actually see there's a rivet in there that I drilled out. But I decided to go with bolts instead. I had to use some spacers in here. So you can see I have 3 washers in between all these. So otherwise it was warping really bad. So it's basically a bolt, a nut, 3 washers, and a lock washer on the bottom. And that holds that thing together pretty solid. This is the mount to the crash bar that connects to the grill. It's broken off, but it's pretty clean, as you can see. And the spot where it goes is in pretty good shape, so I should just be able to stick this on with some JB Weld, and it should stay strong enough to keep the bumper on. I've applied a light coat of JB Weld to the part that I'm going to stick in, and then I also put a bunch on the hole where it's supposed to go, and I'm basically just going to stick it in there and let it dry for 15 minutes. The other side didn't fare so well. Looks like I broke a piece out of the center where the bolt goes through. Fortunately, I was able to save that piece, so I'm going to take a little bit of JB Weld and glue it back in there. Here's the finished mount. You can see I've gone around them with JB Weld. So those things are really solid in there. I can really tweak on that without breaking it. And you can see it lines up with the original holder for the styrofoam thing. Same thing with this side. You can see I've put on a good layer of JB Weld all the way around this. This thing is solid on here. So you can see this edge here got torn off and it's kind of sticking up here. I'm basically just going to put some JB Weld under it and clamp it down, let it dry like that, and that should be enough to hold it. This other piece out here, this is going to be interesting, but I'll figure something out. This is one of the extra pieces of plastic I found at the scene, and it looks like it broke off here on the side of the bumper. I need it to hold on the fender liner, so I just basically drilled out the old rivet, put a bigger one in there, riveted back on. That should be enough to hold it. It's going to be a little loose, but it shouldn't be any problem with the fender liner. It'll at least stay in. So we'll go ahead and go forward with that. Here's a look at the front end out here. You can see I've got bolts all along there. Then I got a couple of rivets right here, a couple more bolts. I went up here with JB Weld to stick this all down, and I kind of pieced this all back together. I took my Dremel to it and dremeled off some pieces that were sticking out. So I just took some of that JB Weld I had left over and I just sealed it here. That's solid. It's as solid as it was originally. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back in now. And check that out. That is mounted in there just like it was from the factory. This piece actually broke. It broke when I was putting it back in. It was already partially cracked. It's still holding it in there. I have seen no need to fix it. This is snapped on just like it would be normally, and everything looks good. So I'm just going to go with it. Yeah, I think it's solid. I think it's just as strong as stock. So we're going to test it now. We'll put it on the car and I'm going to take it out for a drive. And there it is, all finished. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but hey, it works. I got a whole bunch of self-tapping screws holding the grill in. This crack here is JB welded on the back side, so it's pretty solid. It's not going anywhere. And I've got all these bolts in here holding on the inside trim. A couple of rivets holding this piece down to the fender, and a couple of bolts to hold it tight here. I had to hold the fender liner in with zip ties because it won't line up. You can see down there it's like pretty far off. I've got zip ties under here also, but about half of it's bolts. And I've got the inside of the fender liner buttoned in. And this mount here broke. I didn't expect it to be super strong because I had to glue the top of it back on, but hey, it's holding everything in. But this one over here is solid. This thing ain't going anywhere, and this whole bumper, as you can see, is on the car, really solid. I don't feel scared to drive it at all, so I'm going to go take it for a test drive and see how it works. So hopefully I won't run into any problems, and we'll be back in a second and let you know how it went. And I took it out and it drives just like it did before. From the inside, you can't even tell it's broken. No rattles, nothing. It's great. And I've actually driven it about 200 miles since, so as far as I'm concerned, it is good to go. And my thought right now is I want to go to a specific body shop that did some work for me earlier and did a great job on the paint match. So I think I want to go to them, but they're pretty backed up. Right now I can't even get until May because we had the ice storm and there was all these accidents, and now the body shops are even more backed up than they already were. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to keep the car as is. If I can find a bumper cover, I'm going to take the busted up one off and I'm going to put a good one on there and use all my good parts. I have basically new parts for everything. Still looking for the bumper cover, but I do have some leads on it. But that's all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.